The fluorescent lights of Murphy's diner buzzed with dying electricity, casting sickly yellow pools across cracked vinyl booths. Zara wiped down the same table for the third time, her six-fingered hands moving in practiced circles while her large, amber eyes tracked every movement in the establishment. To the human patrons, she appeared fragile, barely 5 feet tall, with translucent skin that seemed to glow under artificial light. "Hey, freak show!" Rick's voice cut through the dinner rush chatter like a rusty blade. The construction worker had made tormenting her his evening entertainment for months. "My coffee's cold again. What kind of alien can't even heat liquid properly?" Zara's shoulders tensed, but she maintained her submissive posture. Around the diner, conversations quieted. Everyone knew Rick's routine by now: the cruel jokes, the accidental touches, the way he'd block her path to the kitchen. Most customers looked away, uncomfortable but unwilling to intervene. "I'll get you a fresh cup, Mr. Morrison," Zara whispered, her accent carrying musical notes that didn't quite fit human vocal cords. Rick grabbed her wrist as she reached for his mug, his calloused fingers digging into her pale flesh. "Maybe you should warm it with your mouth first. I bet alien spit has special properties." The diner fell silent, except for the ancient air conditioning unit rattling overhead. Zara stood frozen, her amber eyes reflecting the harsh lights like mirrors. For a moment, something flickered behind those eyes, something vast and calculating that made the temperature in the room seem to drop several degrees. Then Rick laughed, releasing her wrist. "Relax, everybody. I'm just having fun with our little refugee here. Earth hospitality, right, Zara?" Zara nodded quickly, retreating toward the coffee machine with her head down. But as she walked away, several patrons noticed something they'd never seen before. Her hands weren't shaking. In fact, she moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost predatory, like a dancer who'd suddenly remembered their true choreography. Martha, the elderly night manager, watched from behind the register, with growing unease. In the 3 years since Zara had arrived on the refugee transport, she'd never seen the girl stand quite so straight, never noticed how her eyes seemed to catalog every person in the room with mathematical precision. Rick was already planning his next joke, oblivious to the fact that something fundamental had shifted in the dingy diner. The alien girl he'd been tormenting was no longer trembling at his presence. Instead, she was studying him with the focused attention of a scientist examining a particularly interesting specimen dot as Zara poured fresh coffee. Her lips curved into something that might have been a smile, if smiles were supposed to contain that much hidden knowledge about human nature's darkest corners. Asterisk. The next evening brought a thunderstorm that rattled Murphy's windows and sent sheets of rain across the parking lot. Rick arrived later than usual, soaked and irritated from a job site accident that had cost him half a day's pay. He slammed into his usual booth, water dripping from his jacket onto the warm linoleum. "Coffee. Now," he barked at Zara as she approached. "With a towel. And make it strong. This day's been nothing but problems." Zara set the towel beside him, her movements careful and deliberate. "I'm sorry you're having difficulties, Mr. Morrison. Would you like to hear about today's specials?" Rick's eyes narrowed. Something was different about her tone, less subservient, more clinical. "What I'd like is for you to stop pretending you understand human problems. You're just an illegal alien taking up space." The other patrons shifted, uncomfortably. Even by Rick's standards, the venom in his voice was excessive. But Zara didn't flinch. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, studying him with those unsettling amber eyes. "You seem particularly agitated tonight," she observed. Quietly. "More than usual. Did something happen with your supervisor today? Mr. Jenkins, isn't it?" Rick's face darkened. How did she know his supervisor's name? "Mind your own business, freak." "I am minding my business," Zara replied, her voice carrying. an odd harmonic quality. My business is observing, learning, understanding what makes humans tick. She leaned slightly closer, and several nearby diners felt their skin crawl without knowing why. And you, Mr. Morrison, are particularly transparent. Rick stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. What's that supposed to mean? It means I know exactly who you are, Zara said softly, but her voice carried clearly through the silent diner. I know why you come here night after night to torment someone smaller than you. I know about the apartment you can barely afford, the promotion you'll never get, the woman who left you because you reminded her too much of her father. The color drained from Rick's face. Shut up. I know about the pills you hide in your trucks. Glove compartment, Zara continued, her tone remaining conversational, while her words carved precise wounds. The ones you tell yourself you'll stop taking tomorrow. I know about the dreams where you're still 8 years old, and someone much bigger than you is making you feel exactly how you make me feel. I said shut up. Rick's voice cracked like a whip. Zara straightened to her full height, still small by human standards. But somehow her presence seemed to fill the entire diner. When she spoke, her words carried the weight of absolute certainty. Lay a hand on me again, human, and you'll meet the monster I've been hiding. The threat hung in the air like ozone before lightning. Every person in Murphy's diner felt it, a primal recognition that they were witnessing something unprecedented and dangerous. Rick laughed, but the sound was hollow, desperate. Monster? You? You're nothing but a scrawny alien playing dress-up. In human clothes. Zara smiled then, and it was the most terrifying expression anyone in that diner had ever seen. Not because it was alien or inhuman, but because it was perfectly, calculatedly human. Asterisk. Rick's laughter died in his throat as he truly looked at Zara for the first time. Her smile wasn't alien at all. It was the smile of someone who had learned to weaponize human nature itself. Around the diner, patrons felt an inexplicable urge to leave, though none could explain why. You want to see a monster, Mr. Morrison? Zara's voice had changed, acquiring subtle inflections that seemed to bypass conscious thought and speak directly to the primitive parts of the human brain. Very well. She didn't transform. No claws emerged, no fangs extended, no scales rippled across her skin. Instead, she simply began to speak. Tomorrow morning, your supervisor Jenkins will receive an anonymous call about the safety violations you've been covering up. The ones you blame on your coworkers while drinking at Sullivan's bar. Rick's eyes widened in shock. Your ex-wife. Linda will get a detailed email about the child support payments you've been skipping by working under the table. Your mother will learn that you've been selling the medication she trusted you to pick up for her arthritis. Zara's voice remained conversational, but each word landed like a physical blow. And your drinking buddy Dave will discover that you're the one who's been spreading rumors about his wife. Rick stumbled backward, his face pale with terror. That's impossible. You don't know any of that. I know everything, Zara said softly. Every secret, every shame, every weakness you've revealed through 3 years of casual cruelty. My species doesn't evolve claws or venom, Mr. Morrison. We evolve perfect comprehension of our environment's apex predators. Martha clutched the register counter, watching in fascination and horror as the timid refugee girl she'd known transformed into something unprecedented. Not physically, Zara looked exactly the same, but her presence had become enormous, predatory, like a great white shark that had suddenly realized it was surrounded by bleeding swimmers. You've been studying us, whispered Jim, a regular customer who'd watched Rick's harassment campaign for months. For 3 years, Zara confirmed, never taking her amber eyes off Rick. Every gesture, every vocal pattern, every social dynamic. I learned your hierarchies, your insecurities, your pressure points. I mapped the precise neural pathways that govern your tribal behaviors. Rick was backing toward the door now, but Zara hadn't moved from her position beside his abandoned table. The beautiful thing about psychological warfare, she continued, is that it requires no physical contact. By tomorrow evening, you'll have no job, no friends, and your family will know exactly what kind of person you really are. Your entire social structure will collapse, and the worst part? She paused, letting the silence stretch until Rick's breathing became audible. Every word I tell them will be completely true. Rick's face crumpled as the full implication hit him. This wasn't a threat of violence. It was something far more sophisticated and cruel. She was offering to destroy his entire life, using nothing but accurate information and perfectly targeted social manipulation. "You're bluffing," he said desperately. "You're just a refugee. You don't have those kinds of connections." Zara tilted her head, and her smile grew wider. "Mr. Morrison, I've been taking night classes at the community college for 2 years. Psychology, sociology, communications. I've been building relationships with people in every social circle that matters to your existence. And they all think I'm just a sweet, harmless alien girl who's been unfairly treated by one particular human." The trap had been years in the making, and Rick was only now seeing its true scope. Asterisk. The diner had become a theater of psychological warfare, with every patron watching the impossible scene unfold. Rick stood frozen near the door, his bravado completely evaporated, while Zara remained motionless beside the booth, a predator. So perfect that she didn't need to move to be terrifying. "This is what you wanted to see, isn't it?" Zara asked, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in the bones of everyone present. "The monster I've been hiding?" Old Martha found her voice first. "Zara, honey, what are you?" "I'm exactly what I've always been," Zara replied without looking away from Rick. "A member of the Kifara species. We're empaths, Martha. Not the gentle kind you read about in human fiction. We're evolutionary empaths. We survive by becoming perfect mirrors of whatever threatens us." She gestured gracefully toward Rick, who was now pressed against the door like a cornered animal. "When humans threatened our homeworld, we didn't fight back with weapons or claws. We learned to become more human than humans themselves. We became your perfect predators." "I don't understand," Jim whispered. "Human cruelty isn't random," Zara explained, her tone taking on the cadence of a university lecturer. "It follows patterns, psychological patterns, social patterns, evolutionary patterns. Once you understand those patterns, you can replicate them with surgical precision." She finally turned away from Rick to address the other patrons, and they were shocked to see tears beginning to form in her amber eyes. "For 3 years, I've been cataloging every method Mr. Morrison uses to assert dominance through humiliation. Every technique he employs to make others feel small and powerless. I've been learning to speak fluent human cruelty." Rick made a choking sound. "You're insane." "No," Zara said sadly. "I'm adapted. My species survives by becoming whatever we need to become. And in a world where humans like you hold power, we become monsters who understand exactly how to destroy you." The tears were flowing freely now, and her voice began to crack. "But here's what I didn't anticipate, Mr. Morrison. Here's the part that's truly monstrous." She wiped her face with the back of her 6-fingered hand, smearing the alien equivalent of tears across her pale cheek. "I'm good at it. I'm so good at being cruel in perfectly human ways that it scares me. I've become the thing I was hiding from." The diner fell silent except for the storm outside and the buzz of fluorescent lights. Everyone could feel the weight of what they were witnessing, a creature so perfectly adapted to human nature that she had become a mirror reflecting their darkest capabilities. "The monster I've been hiding isn't some alien horror," Zara continued, her voice barely above a whisper. It's the perfect human predator. Someone who knows exactly which words will break you, which relationships to target, which insecurities to exploit. She looked directly at Rick again, and he flinched from the profound sadness in her eyes. And the most terrifying part? I learned it all from you. The storm outside had intensified, lightning illuminating the diner in stark, intermittent flashes. Rick remained frozen by the door, his entire worldview crumbling as he processed what Zara had revealed. The other patrons sat in stunned silence, grappling with the realization that they'd been sharing space with something unprecedented. But it was Martha who broke the silence, her weathered voice cutting through the tension. So what happens now, honey? Zara wiped her eyes again, her shoulders sagging under the weight of her revelation. That's the choice I have to make, isn't it? I could follow through. Destroy Mr. Morrison's life with surgical precision. Prove that I've become the perfect human monster. She moved away from the booth, walking slowly toward the center of the diner. As she moved, her alien grace became more apparent fluid movements that seemed to flow like water. A reminder that despite her perfect understanding of human nature, she remained fundamentally other. Or I could choose to be something else. Rick found his voice, though it came out as a rasp. What ... What are you going to do? Zara stopped walking and turned to face him fully. In the harsh fluorescent light, her translucent skin seemed to glow with an inner luminescence that was purely alien, purely beautiful. I'm going to apologize. The words hit the diner like a physical shock. Everyone had expected threats, violence, or elaborate revenge. No one had anticipated this. I'm sorry, Mr. Morrison, Zara said, her voice returning to the gentle musical tones they remembered from before. I'm sorry that I learned to be cruel by watching you. I'm sorry that I let your pain turn me into something that could hurt you back. And I'm sorry that you're in so much pain that you need to hurt others to feel powerful. Rick's face contorted with confusion and something that might have been shame. I don't understand. My species adapts to survive, Zara explained. But adaptation isn't the same as identity. I can choose what I become. She looked around the diner, meeting each person's eyes in turn. I can choose to be the monster that reflects your worst impulses, or I can choose to be something better. She walked toward Rick, who pressed harder against the door. But when she stopped, it was just far enough away to avoid triggering his fight-or-flight response. I won't destroy your life, Mr. Morrison, not because you don't deserve consequences for your actions, but because destroying you would destroy something important in me as well. What do you want from me? Rick whispered. I want you to understand. Something, Zara replied. The monster I showed you tonight, it exists because people like you create people like me. Your cruelty doesn't just hurt its immediate targets. It teaches observers how to be cruel in return. She gestured to the other patrons. Everyone in this diner has watched you torment me for months. Some felt bad about it, but no one intervened. They learned that cruelty is acceptable when it's directed at someone perceived as different or powerless. Jim shifted uncomfortably in his booth. Zara, we should have... Yes, you should have, she agreed without accusation. But you didn't. And I learned from that too. I learned that humans often enable cruelty through inaction. Rick was crying now, tears streaming down his weathered face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Zara nodded slowly. I believe you are. And that's why I'm making a different choice. She turned to address everyone in the diner. I'm choosing to believe that humans are capable of being better than their worst impulses. I'm choosing to be the kind of person who breaks cycles instead of perpetuating them. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating her face in stark relief. But I'm also choosing to leave Murphy's Diner. Not because I'm afraid, but because staying would mean continuing to be defined by this dynamic. Martha's voice was thick with emotion. Where will you go? I've been accepted to a graduate program in psychology, Zara said with a smile that was purely joyful. I'm going to use what I've learned about human nature to help heal trauma instead of causing it. She walked toward the door, and Rick stepped aside to let her pass. As she reached for the handle, she paused. Mr. Morrison? The pill's in your glove compartment. There are people who can help you with that. People who understand that sometimes we hurt others because we're in pain ourselves. Rick nodded, unable to speak. Zara opened the door, letting in the sound of rain and distant thunder. I hope you all choose to be better than the monsters you're capable of becoming. And with that, she stepped out into the storm, leaving behind a diner full of people who would never forget the night they met someone who chose healing over revenge, growth over destruction. The fluorescent lights continued to buzz overhead, but somehow the light seemed warmer now. End of story **.